Hello and welcome. Come on in, grab a seat, and get comfortable. It is so absolutely wonderful to have you here in the clinic today. I know being an expectant parent is this massive emotional journey. It's filled with excitement and, let's be totally honest here, probably a fair amount of anxiety too. You are experiencing a profound transformation right now, and my goal with this explainer today is to walk you through exactly what is happening inside your body. So take a nice deep breath and let's jump right into the incredible journey you and your baby have just begun.
Because it's the most natural question in the world, isn't it? You stare at that positive test, and your brain just goes, okay, what is actually happening inside my body right now? Well, hidden away in your uterine cavity, a literal microscopic miracle is unfolding. We're going to look at how a tiny cluster of rapidly dividing cells transforms, anchors itself, and builds an entirely new life. It's a complex biological symphony, but we'll walk through exactly how your body orchestrates it all so perfectly.
Okay, let's dive into this. Right after fertilization, the cells divide super rapidly without actually growing in overall size, a process we call cleavage. Very quickly, we hit this 32-cell stage called the blastocyst, and notice how it organizes itself. An outer layer called the trophoblast develops, and then inside, clustered tightly at just one pole, is a group of stem cells known as the inner cell mass. This beautiful little structure has just arrived in your uterus and is prepping for a absolutely crucial step: implantation. To make this a bit easier to visualize, think of the blastocyst kind of like a complex origami sphere. That inner cell mass, those core seeds gathered at one end, they contain the incredible potential to build literally every single part of your baby. Meanwhile, that outer layer, the trophoblast, acts a lot like a root system. Its sole job right now is to reach out, find the nutrient-rich bed of your uterine lining, and anchor the sphere securely in place.
Now let's look at exactly how those roots take hold. The outer trophoblast layer transforms into something called the syncytiotrophoblast. I know, it's a huge word, but don't let that intimidate you. What it actually does is create these microscopic finger-like roots called chorionic villi. It's almost like your baby is acting as a friendly, genetic little hitchhiker, physically digging these tiny anchoring fingers into the wall of your uterus, the endometrium. This is implantation. Your baby is officially securing their first home.
And what happens next is just a beautiful collaboration. The life support system known as the placenta, it's a joint creation. It's not just made by you, the mother, and it's not just made by the fetus. Your baby contributes those anchoring fingers, the chorionic villi. You, the mother, contribute the rich, modified uterine tissue, which we now call the decidual basalis. These two tissues lock together tightly to build the placenta. You are quite literally building this vital connection together.
Once it's formed, the placenta is just a magnificent automated life support system. It acts as a diffusion membrane, seamlessly delivering oxygen and vital nutrients directly to your developing embryo. At the exact same time, it safely sweeps away carbon dioxide and excretory waste. Plus, it functions as a temporary endocrine gland, churning out the essential hormones needed to maintain your pregnancy. All of this happens automatically in the background, keeping your baby incredibly safe and nourished.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the truly fascinating biological twist regarding the umbilical cord, which is what connects your baby to the placenta. Usually in our bodies, veins carry deoxygenated blood and arteries carry oxygenated blood. But here, the roles are completely reversed. There is one umbilical vein, and its job is to carry fresh, oxygenated, nutrient-rich blood from the placenta directly to the baby. Conversely, there are two umbilical arteries carrying deoxygenated blood and waste away from the baby back to the placenta. It is a brilliant, highly efficient transport system.
And remember how we mentioned the placenta acts as a temporary endocrine gland? Well, it secretes specific hormones that literally only exist in your body when you are pregnant. Human chorionic gonadotropin, or HCG, not only turns that pregnancy test positive, but it actually signals your ovaries to maintain the early pregnancy until the placenta is fully formed and ready to take over the job. Then there's human placental lactogen, which preps your body for milk production, and relaxin, which will eventually help relax your pelvic ligaments for delivery. These chemical messengers are guiding your body through the whole shebang. So, let's shift our focus back from the placenta to the baby itself. Those inner seeds we talked about earlier are now mapping out the actual blueprint of your baby's body. The blastocyst transforms into a brand new stage called the gastrula. Gastrulation is this critical stage where that inner cell mass differentiates and organizes itself into 3 distinct germ layers. This is where the foundation for every single organ in the human body is laid down. Before we get those 3 layers, though, the inner cells actually form 2 distinct cell types first, the epiblast and the hypoblast, also known as the embryonic disc. As these cells gently rotate and differentiate, the epiblast cells form the amnion, a protective sac that fills with amniotic fluid to beautifully cushion your growing baby. Meanwhile, the cells continue to organize to form those fundamental building blocks of life we just mentioned.
And here is exactly what those building blocks create. It's like a giant puzzle. The outermost layer, the ectoderm, forms the nervous system, your baby's brain and their nerves. The middle layer, the mesoderm, develops into all the muscular and connective tissues. And the innermost layer, the endoderm, is responsible for creating the visceral internal organs. It is truly astounding to think that every single complex part of your baby's body originates from just these 3 tiny, perfectly organized layers of cells.
Because of those incredibly efficient germ layers, your baby takes shape rapidly. And I mean rapidly. By the end of just the first month, the heart is formed and already beating. By the end of the second month, those tiny limbs in distinct digits, the little fingers and toes, have developed. And by the end of 12 weeks or 3 months, most of the major organ systems and the external genitalia are already fully formed.
As we move into the later stages of pregnancy, it becomes even more real. At about 5 months, you'll likely feel that incredible first movement of your baby, and hair actually begins to appear on their head. By 6 months, a fine hair covers their body, and beautifully, their tiny eyelids finally separate and open. Fast forward to 9 months, and the fetus is fully developed, perfectly proportioned, and getting completely ready for the outside world.
So, fast forward to the end of those 9 months. Everything is perfectly developed. The major question now becomes, how does your baby communicate that it's time to meet the world? It's not just some random occurrence. And as much as you might want to hand them an eviction notice at 40 weeks, it's actually the baby and the placenta that send the very first chemical signals that it's time for delivery. Let's break down this complex sequence, which is known as the fetal ejection reflex. It kicks off when the maturing placenta releases a stress hormone called CRH. This tells the baby's tiny adrenal glands to release cortisol and androgens, which travel right back to the placenta. There, those androgens convert into estrogen, and that estrogen triggers the release of prostaglandins, which are what start the actual physical contractions of your uterus.
I want to pause on one of those hormones we just mentioned, cortisol. We usually think of it purely as a stress hormone, right? But here, it is an absolute lifesaver. The cortisol released by the fetus in late pregnancy is absolutely crucial because it ensures the baby's lungs dilate and mature. This perfectly timed biological step guarantees that your newborn's alveolar sacs are open and completely ready to take that very first vital breath of air outside the womb.
And this brilliantly illustrates an amazing biological chain reaction, the oxytocin feedback loop. Once those mild contractions start pushing the baby downward, the cervix stretches. This stretching sends immediate nerve signals up to your hypothalamus, telling the posterior pituitary gland to release oxytocin. This oxytocin causes stronger contractions. Stronger contractions mean more stretching, which means even more oxytocin. This escalating, powerful loop continuously builds until your beautiful baby is finally delivered.
But the miracle doesn't stop at birth. Your body seamlessly shifts into a brand new phase, nourishment through lactation. 2 primary hormones manage this transition. Prolactin acts on the mammary glands to actually produce the milk. But oxytocin, yep, the exact same hormone that caused the contractions for birth, plays a totally new role here. Oxytocin is responsible for milk ejection, allowing the milk to actually flow to your hungry newborn.
And that very first milk your body produces? It's extraordinary. It's called colostrum. This is a super nutrient-dense initial milk produced in the very first days of lactation. Crucially, it is absolutely packed with vital maternal antibodies. Think of it as nature's first vaccine. As doctors, we highly recommend breastfeeding during these initial days because this colostrum directly transfers your hard-earned immune protection to the baby, defending them from early infections right out of the gate.
Looking back at everything we've just covered in this explainer, from a tiny cluster of 32 cells to the complex formation of the placenta, the organization of germ layers, and the perfectly timed hormones of birth and lactation, it's just overwhelming in the best way possible. It brings us to a really beautiful truth. Your body is performing an incredible symphony of microscopic miracles to build and protect a new life. You are doing an incredible job.
So, as we wrap up our clinic chat today, I want to leave you with a thought to ponder for the weeks ahead. As your baby makes this profound transition from a microscopic cluster of cells into a breathing, observant newborn, how will you nourish their continued physical and emotional growth in the outside world?
It's the beginning of a beautiful, brand new chapter for you both. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I wish you a healthy, safe, and incredibly joyful pregnancy journey.